Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Barakatah, Shalom Yashala and Namaskar. I'm Officer Dawada, and with me I have
Shalom, this is Elijah.
Khan,
Yeah, back from the Shy Barakatam.
the soldier Elijah, Officer Dawada. We're on the third class now, but second book of the Apocrypha. We're going to head into the second Esdras. Let me pull that up right here. So for anyone that that might not have seen the first class on the Apocrypha and is tuning into this first and may not have seen the first Esdras one, this is going to be a summary of the book of Second Esdras in the Apocrypha. But if you had any, things you might want to learn about the whole, the book of the Apocrypha itself, where it comes from, why it got taken out, why we use it, and why we believe for it to be true, and how the heathen put their hands in everything. You can go on the channel and you'll find the first Apocrypha class, which is just called the class on the Apocrypha, and then we have the first Esdras and this is the second Esdras. So now, with that being said, we're going to start off with the naming of Ezra. Before we get to anything, I just want to make it clear, because with first Esdras is the same thing, that second Esdras is an apocalyptic book. We're going to go into that, where Ezra is prophesying basically the apocalypse, the end times. But it's in some versions of the Bible. It's part of the Apocrypha. When I say some versions, going back to the first class, it was taken out by you have all these different churches that put their hands in there, and then you have the Protestant writers after the Geneva Bible called 1 and 2nd Esdras of the Vulgate, Ezra and Nehemiah, and called 3rd and 4th Esdras of the Vulgate, 1st and 2nd Esdras. So you might see this book called 4th Esdras in certain spots, and then there's 1st Esdras they might call 3rd Esdras. So they cause a bunch of confusion and stuff, changing names and things, but we call this second Esdras. That's what it's called in the Apocrypha. These then became the common names for these books in the English Bibles. It appears in the appendix to the Old Testament in the Slavonic Bible, where it is called Third Esdras, and the Georgian Orthodox Bible numbers it Third Ezra. This text is sometimes also known as Apocalypse of Ezra. So there's even other names outside of Second Esdras where they call them the Apocalypse of Ezra. That's chapters 3 through 14, which is known as the Jewish Apocalypse of Ezra, or 4th Ezra. So basically there's all these names, but what they're doing is splitting up Second Ezra's, and right here referred to the 4th book of Israel, referred to by Jerome, most likely corresponds to modern 5 Ezra and 6 Ezra. I learned that, studying this, that there's a 5 Ezra and a 6 Ezra. They just keep going higher. But really, those are part of 2nd Ezra's. But what they did was they were breaking up chapters of the book and making them their whole, section for their own reasons. A lot of it is just, scholars decided this and that, when really they shouldn't be touching anything of this Bible. They already took it all out the Bible anyways and put it in a separate book, Apocrypha. But you can find it in translations of the Bible, like the King James 1611. And we go into that again in the first Apocrypha class. Now, with that being said, with all the names, they give into the book of Second Ezra, we're going to start off. We start all the way from the beginning, chapter 1 through 2. It's titled God's Words for Israel for Their Countless Sins and Carelessness of His Law. Well, that's the title I gave to that because once you see right here, you're going to see the Most High going in on Israel. And before we get to that, though, although that's the title, I wanted to read chapter 1, 31 and through 33. Soldier Elijah, if you're able to grab that for me.
I'll go get it.
Chapter 1, 2nd Esdras, 31 through 33.
This is the book of Second Esdras, chapter 2, verse 31. Remember thy children that sleep, for I shall bring them out of the sides of the earth, and shew mercy unto them. For I am merciful, saith the Lord Almighty.
And then 32 and 33.
Verse 32. Embrace thy children until I come, and show mercy unto them. For my wells run over, and my grace shall not fail.
Con.
I, Esdras, received a charge of the Lord upon the mount Horeb, that I should go unto Israel. But when I came unto them, they set me at naught, and despised the commandment of the Lord.
Con. So that's what I wanted to start with. And Thabada, Soldier of Life, for bringing that out. I, Esdras, received a charge of the Lord upon the Mount Horeb, that I should go into Israel. But when I came unto them, they set me at naught and despised the commandment of the Lord. That's what I wanted to put in the beginning, because that's what these first chapter right here, and the first two chapters is really this whole book. But in this first two chapters, it's really going in on Israel, just leaving the law behind them, and just going off exactly what we're doing today and what we've been doing pretty much forever. And there was times where we were keeping the laws, but it seems like there's more than not us just going off. So with that being said, we'll just start off with Ezra's genealogy. That starts off the book of Second Ezra. When you read the book of Second Ezra, chapter 1, the beginning is his genealogy, and it establishes his priestly descent, going back to Aaron, that he's a Levite and that he's a descendant of Aaron. So Ezra is also a prophet. He's a Levite and he's also a prophet, and we'll get to that deeper down here, where Yahweh is like being shown visions, and and he writes them down. He's prophesying. Now, it also establishes he was a captive in the reign of Artaxerxes, the king of Persia. We established that too in the class of First Esdras that we did a little while back. Now, we're going to start with this. So, in the fourth verse of chapter 1, it says, the word of the Lord comes to Ezra, and it's telling him to go show his people their sinful deeds. And then the Most High outlines the indictment of the sins that Israel doing, and I just listed them here. He's listing of Israel's sins, of how off we were. And despite God's many mercies and him speaking on how he has delivered us out of Egypt, Israel has failed to be obedient. He's listing off all these times that he's shown mercy to the children of Israel, and how he freed us out of Egypt, which also is, synonymous with bondage. And Israel fails still to be obedient. They sacrifice. This is one of the sins labeled. They sacrifice to other gods, idolatry. That's what we did over here when the Northern Kingdom came over here. They started with all the idolatry and sacrificing to other gods. And then we got took down. And then God even says, how long shall he forbear them unto whom he has done so much good? He's tired of all this stuff Israel is doing. How long does he have to forbear us to come back and keep his laws? Even till this day. This is written in the time of Ezra. Until this day, it's still the same. Calamities will ensue upon those who have disobeyed the law. Meaning, you're not going to get away with breaking his law. Things are going to come upon you. He repeats all the wondrous things he has done for Israel. Again, the Most High going over all the wondrous things he's done for Israel. All the times he saved us, all the times he's showed us his love, showed us his mercy, his grace. He gives a description of him delivering us at the Red Sea. He says he gave them light from a pillar of fire. He gave them quail as a sign, and water from a rock when they murmured against him. He's always been there saving us, and they still murmured against him. He gave them manna, the bread of the angels. He gave them fertile lands and expelled the inhabitants who opposed them. And you can find all of this in the first chapter, starting at verse 4. And then, when they cursed God, he gave them sweet water to drink. Remember when he knocked a tree down and it made the water sweet? What more could I do for you? And that was when they were mad, even mad about what they were drinking. So he gave them something sweet to drink, and people still going off. And then he says, "What more could I do for you? Because you turned from me, I will turn to other nations," says God. So we're gonna get that scripture real quick.
What shall I do unto thee, O Jacob? Thou Judah, wouldest not obey me. I will turn me to other nations, and unto those will I give my name, that they may keep my statutes.
Wow, reading that, it's like you keep going off. He said, "How long does he have to forbear us?" Now we know the Most High hasn't given up on Israel. We might be going through curses now, but when you read Revelations and you read all throughout the Bible, you see, that we make a comeback in His name through Yahushua, the blood of His Son, which is big in this book too. Second Esdras, we're gonna get into that also. But you just see that the Most High is frustrated. He's fed up with us at this point. Going back to that, Israel has brought all this upon himself. You know, and we need to make it clear that Most High has deserted us. We deserted Him. We were the ones given the law and just threw it away. You know, captivity after captivity, just will not learn. Now, chapter 2, that was all. Chapter 1. There's 16 chapters in this, and that's all what is in the first chapter. We're gonna move on to chapter 2. The Most High speaks more on how we have done so much evil before Him, and He's still going in on us because we deserved it for Him being the creator and us thinking we can tell Him anything, murmur anything. Chapter 2, verse 42 through 48. Eli, if you can have that ready. Book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 2, verse 42 through 48. Bawadah. This is Ezra's vision.
I'm pulling it up.
Con. This is big. It talks about a man of higher stature was placing a crown on each person's head. Now I have a little summary of it right here, but I'd like to bring it out. So Eli, as soon as you get that, Soldier Eli, if you could bring that out, Bawadah.
I got it.
And Salakia, I'm actually gonna put it on the screen just so everyone can see, because I do have a summary of it, but I like for us to see the verse itself. Second Esdras 2, starting at verse 42. So right here. All right.
Con.
If you could go ahead and bring that out.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 2, verse 42. I, Ezra, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people
No,
who
Salakia. Starting with this, he saw on the Mount Zion a great people. Remember, this is a vision being shown to him. This book is visions on visions, Second Esdras. So, with that being said, we continue. But remember, this is a vision being shown to him by the Most High. Con, you continue.
Okay, Con, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. 43. And in the midst of them there was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly.
Con, we're gonna get right into who this is, and I know a lot of people, a lot of brews that might be watching this already know who this is, but let's see what happens next.
So I asked the angel and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, These be they that they have put off the mortal clothing, and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of God. Now are they crowned, and receive palms. Then said I unto the angel, What young person is it that crowneth them, and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of God.
Salakia, right there. In the time of Esdras, he's being shown a vision of Yahushai, the Son of God, being shown right here before, he was walking on the earth, being shown a vision of him putting crowns, and this is at the end, giving them their reward. For the ones that put off the mortal clothing, put on the immortal, and confessed the name of God, and believed and had faith, kept the commandments, being shown Hamashiach Yahushai, whom they have confessed in the world, which is what we must do. Confess that he
God.
is the Son of God. We have to really believe that he did live. Don't let people turn you away from that. That's you know, all the way over here in Second Ezra, you can find that. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. So then he commended them, and at this time he doesn't know who Yahushua is. That's why he has to ask the angel, which we're gonna get into right after who this angel is and his name, but just right here, and I'll read 48, Eliah.
Okay, Khan.
Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way, and tell my people what manner of things and how great wonders of the Lord thy God thou hast seen. Already preaching of Mashiach Yahushai. Go and tell thy people what you've seen. And what he saw was Yahushai giving those people the rewards. He may not fully understand it yet, because he doesn't, he hadn't seen him before. He didn't know who this young man of high stature was yet. The angel had to tell him he's the Son of God. So with that being said, Hamashiach Yahushai being already taught, go thy way, tell my people what manner of things. He wrote this down, you know. This is written down for us to read now to this day. Now let's go back to the class here. A man of higher stature was placing a crown on each person's head. These are the people who acknowledge the name of God. And when Ezra asked the angel who the young man is, he's told the young man is the Son of God. So that's the first vision, him being shown. Yahushai, who he didn't know who it was at first. He had to be told it was the Son of God, but to go tell the people the things you've seen. Now, those are the first two chapters. Chapter 3 to up about chapter 14, which is the majority of the book. There's 16 chapters. I titled it Visions on Visions, because he's just having vision after vision, and Most High's telling him go fast 7 days, go do this 7 days. We'll get into that too. And then this whole time it keeps talking about how Ezra's heart is sore vexed, and he was distraught, and he was scared of all. He's seeing all these things. It was scaring him, and the most and again, I'm saying the Most High showed him these visions, but it was the angel that he was using to do that. So the angel, I believe, chapter 4 is, I believe, when it first says his name. So I'm gonna wait till we get done with chapter 3, then we'll read about which you see right here, Uriel, the angel's response. So chapter 3, Ezra goes over the history of how we got to this point. That's what the main point of chapter 3 is. He's troubled for the future and present of Israel. His spirit was sore moved, and he was going through it very bad. He was troubled. He seen that our people were destroyed back then too, And he was not only worried about the future, he's worried about the present. And he reviews God's history with people. He goes over how Adam was created and given life in the garden. He sinned and brought death into the world and unto all the generations after him. Then there was the flood, but Noah was spared. This is all Ezra going into this. You can find this in chapter 3, verse 1, all the way up to 36. People continued sinning. Hold on, Salakia. After Noah was spared, then there was Abraham and the promises made to him. God rescued. Oh, Salakia. People continued sinning and ended up now we're in Egypt. But then Most High rescued them from Egypt and gave them the law and led them into the promised land. But people continued sinning again. And then eventually, Most High gave them King David, who was righteous, yet, you know, the kings before him and after him, even after all that, because, they were crying for a king. They wanted a king. I know King David wasn't the first king that he gave to them, but King David is big in the Bible, seeing, what he's done and how his relationship with the Most High and how he fell, him being an example of the nation of Israel, how he fell too. But then, he came back. And then, yet the conquerors, the Babylonians, were far worse. And, Ezra was questioning how, he was questioning God on how we were under all these heathens, even though we were given the law and given an inheritance. And, we went off, but he was saying how the Babylonians were far worse, yet we are given to the hand of them. So he doesn't understand that yet. On why, and he has these questions on why God does the things He does, pretty much. And we continue. He's questioning how we get it so bad, but they get to rule over us, and He sees they're worse than us. That, has anyone kept your commandments like Israel, is what he says. How can anyone understand your ways? If we can get verse 4, Salakia, 2nd Ezra chapter 4, and if you can start at verse 1, Aliyah, we're going to get the angel Uriel's response to this, to how Ezra's
Got it.
come. I'm going to pull it up again on the screen. But so Ezra has all these questions, that are above his pay grade, but he doesn't know that yet. He wants to know, why are we getting it so bad, but these places, these heathen nations are put over us. They don't even have the law. They're lawless, doing whatever they want. Chapter 4, right here. I have it on the screen, Eli, if you can read it however you want, but I have it on the screen for the people to see. If you can start at chapter 4, verse 1.
Click on. And the angel that was sent unto me, whose name was Uriel, gave me an answer and said, Thy heart hath gone too far in this road, and thinkest thou to comprehend the way of the Most High?
Connie, he questioned him. He said, you think you can comprehend the way of the Most High? And what's his response? Ezra's response.
Then said I, Yea, my Lord. And he answered me and said, I am sent to shew thee 3 ways, and to set forth 3 similitudes before thee, whereof if thou canst declare me one, I will shew thee also the way that thou desirest to see, and I shall
Con,
see. Salapia.
I was just saying, Con.
Okay, God. And I shall shew thee from whence the wicked heart cometh.
Con. So we'll put a pin there. So Uriel tells him, I have these. He is sent to Ezra to help him understand, and he has these 3 things for Ezra to consider. If Ezra can explain any one of them, the angel will explain it to his questions to him. He'll answer his question about the ways of the Most High. Now, the 3 things the angel tells him to starts off with, can you weigh fire? Can you measure the blast of the wind, or can you call back a day that has already passed? 3 things that we know we can't do, and Ezra acknowledges no man can do that. And Uriel gives him more things that he cannot comprehend, showing that his understanding is limited to the Most High. We can get those three things real quick. Just read them word for word in the chapter. I believe it's right here. You can start at verse 5. Con, if you can start at verse 5, Soldier, like I thought,
On
just getting it in the chapter.
verse 5. And I said, Tell on, my Lord. Then said he unto me, Go thy way, weigh me the weight of the fire, or measure me the blast of the wind, or call me again the day that is past.
Con. So, and then Ezra's answer, and I said, What man is able to do that thou shouldest ask such things of me? And then right after that, the angel Uriel asked him more things that he couldn't possibly know unless the Most High showed him. If I should ask thee how great dwellings are in the midst of the sea, or how many springs are in the beginning of the deep, or how many springs are above the firmament, Ezra's not going to know that. He doesn't know what's at the bottom of the ocean. There's no Nat Geographic for him to watch, to see that. And these are just examples. The angel knows he does not know these things. He knows that we can't weigh fire or measure the blast, we can't measure the wind, or bring back a day that has already passed. So, after all these things, Ezra acknowledges that Salakia. So, he also gives him a parable. So the angel Uriel gives him a parable. It involves a revolt by the trees who wants to roll back the sea. At the same time, the sea wants to get rid of all the trees. So, fire, it says, thwarts the trees. Sand blocks the sea. The angel asks, which was right and which was wrong? So Ezra gives his answer. He acknowledges that they were both wrong. They each have their own place. Uriel says, and you can get this. This is in chapter 4, 1, all the way up to verse 50, where Ezra and Uriel going just back at it with all these scenarios and stuff that Ezra just couldn't explain. But this one he explains. Ezra acknowledges that they were both wrong. They each have their own place. The trees have the land. The trees have the land, and the sea, has the sea, the water. So Uriel says it's true for men and God as well, that we aren't on the Most High's level. That Ezra acknowledged that they have their own place. So Ezra asked, why has Israel been handed over to the godless Babylonians? The angel answers, Angel Uriel, that he must wait for the new age to come. And Ezra, of course, wants to know when all this will happen. The angel tells him it is not for him to know. So I'm just giving you guys a summary. These are what these classes are. A summary of what's in these books. Read it you should go and read it for yourself. But, if you wanted to listen, someone just giving a summary, breaking down, verse 4, chapter 4, 1 through 50, this is what it's about. Again, if you had questions on the Apocrypha and all that, we have that class too, on what the Apocrypha is, why it got taken out, everything. And then now we're giving summaries of these books. These aren't really full breakdowns on the history of where this book came from and this and that. These are summaries. We did that in the Apocrypha. And if anyone has any other questions on, anything that we're bringing out when it comes to the history of the Apocrypha and anything, they can comment, email us. We have our email on the channel. But again, these are summaries. So that's why I'm reading it like this. Basically giving you guys a summary of what happens. If you read the whole book, you'd probably do it about 2 hours, hour and a half. But I'd say 2 hours if you want to, really, read and, understand what's being said. But, the summary of this chapter, Angel answers, it must wait for the new age to come. And Ezra, of course, wants to know when all this will happen. the angel tells him the Lord will act on the appointed time has come, meaning that the Most High comes in His own time. We can't predict or know, any of this. We only thing that we can predict is, He does show signs of the times, but that's all stuff that He reveals to us. Anything that we can prophesy or any of this is all comes from the Most High. All comes from the Most High. He puts these visions on us. He puts he lights a lamp on you to be on fire for this. So now, still in chapter 4, and if you can see right here highlighted, I have the verses, chapter 4, verse 51, all the way to chapter 5 to 20. Just a summary on what's being said in there. Signs of the end time. That it's only going to get worse on the earth. So Ezra wants to know if he'll live to see the end. Because just like if this happened today, you want to know, am I going to live to see the end? I mean, with how bad it's gotten, it feels like the end's going to be soon. But what is soon? Soon to us seems like in our lifetime. You just got to stay prepared, stay keeping these laws, statutes, commandments, and see the signs of the times. And right now, the signs of the times looking like it's coming soon. When I say soon, doesn't mean it's next month. Could be, but it could also be in soon, like 5 years, 10 years. We don't know. But the earth has gotten worse and worse, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And that's what's highlighted in this chapter. The angel can't tell him that because he does not know either. So even Uriel does not know. Ezra wants to know if he'll live to see the end. Uriel tells him he doesn't know. The Most High knows that. An increase in chaos, confusion, and wickedness in the earth. Complete reversal of the natural order of things, like the verse Isaiah 5 and 20. If you could grab that, Soldier Aliyah, Isaiah 5.
I'm pulling it up.
And then Ezra going through it again. He's going through it in this whole book. He's being told all these things and shown all these things. He is told to fast for 7 days. So the angel tells him fast for 7 days. And then, we can speak again. So before we go on to chapter 6, we're going to get Isaiah 5 and 20.
Verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter.
A complete reversal of the natural order of things. Everything just reversed. Evil good, good evil. And that's what's happening. It's been happening, but it's just getting worse and worse. The times are just going to keep getting worse and worse. They're not going to get better. The only time they get better is when the Yahweh Shai comes back. When the Most High sends His Son, and judgment is put on the earth. And when that happens, we got to be ready. Now, that's something easy to say, but being that we die daily, and that we have these daily struggles you got to do, you got to take it day by day, and just remember these laws, statutes, and commandments. That's why He tells us to wear our fringes, so that when we look down on them, we remember these laws, and have the faith of Yahweh Shai. And if we have true faith in Him, He will deliver us. Those end times aren't they're gonna be the worst times on the earth. It's gonna be scary. You might think you're ready, but us human beings, we need the Most High to be ready. We need Him for us to know, have the faith that He will deliver us. And that to know what to do when these times come, and to know how to gird up, how to stay righteous in these times, not fall into this world, because it's gonna try to pull you in. But that's pretty much what Ezra's being shown. How everything just turns so wicked. He thinks it's bad now in his time, which it was bad. But he sees that it's just gonna get worse and worse. So after he fasts for 7 days, he's begging to talk with the Most High again. After hearing that, more and more. The instructions are the same. Do what is impossible for man, but easy for God. He is told again and humbled again because he questions things that are, like I said earlier, above his pay grade and only God can reveal. So he's given more impossible things to do, and that's just them showing the angel Uriel just showing examples of that, like the Most High's understanding is just higher than yours. You don't know these things. So God's plan for the world must go until the appointed time. After all this, those who are left will be preserved. Wickedness will be blotted out. Ezra then feels the ground shake and is told again to fast for 7 days. So that's another 7 days. Chapter 6, you can find this in chapter 6, verse 35, all the way to chapter 9 and 25 is what this is being summarized. On the eighth night, Ezra's heart was vexed. The eighth night. So he had fasted the 7 days, and now the eighth night. His heart was vexed, and he spoke with him again, and his soul was distressed. So he's, again, going through it. This whole book, Ezra is just distressed. After he fasted for 7 days, he reflects upon the 7 days of creation. All this was created for the benefit of our sake, but we do not possess an inheritance. If you could get that, Soldier Eliah, chapter 6 in 2nd Esdras, and it's verse 58 through 59. We bring this out all the time. We always Esdras. And, this is his question. After he's fasted for 7 days, seeing that the world was created for our sake. As soon as you get that, Eliah, if you can bring it out, I'm going to put it on.
But we thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given unto their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure?
So that ends off the chapter. How long shall this endure? Why do we not possess it? Those are valid questions, coming from him. But, us having hindsight and being able to read this word, seeing that we don't have an inheritance because we sinned. How long shall this endure? After reading this, to the Most High's appointed time, that we have to be patient, and it says that it's a narrow path, and that we have to endure into the end. Endure meaning we gotta make it to the end. That it's not gonna be easy because you have to endure it. When you go outside and you go run for 2 miles, you have to have endurance, meaning that you have to stick to it. You can't if you have good high endurance, you won't stop. You can run that mile, without having to stop and take constant breaks or go off track. So we know why we don't possess an inheritance now. But Ezra is asking that question. If the world was made for us, why don't we possess inheritance? Because we sinned. So the angel Uriel, right after that, comes again to respond what Ezra said. He responds, what Ezra said is true, but because we have sinned. It's true. We don't possess an inheritance because we have sinned. We're conquered because we've sinned. Captivities because we've sinned. Curses because we've sinned. Israel must endure the hardships of this world before she'll be able to experience the blessings of the world to come for their sin. We have to endure because of sin in the earth. And us being the ones chosen and given the law, held to a higher standard. This law is given to you, and we went off. And I've been saying that this whole class because that's really what this whole book is about. Second is just how we went off, and to a point we're gonna get. right after we finish right here, we're gonna get the first, of the what I say the big three visions in this book. There is those other visions that are big, like Yahushai putting the crowns on, and it's not like one is bigger than the other, but these three visions at the end all come like back to back to back, and he used to reveal a lot. So let me scroll down a little bit. Now, according to Ezra, but the wicked are still treated unfairly, is what Ezra's talking about here. If those who are good will be rewarded at the end, what awaits the wicked? He wants to know what's going to happen to these wicked people at the end. And he's told they suffer here too. So they suffer on the earth too. They gotta, they gotta live on the earth with us, but get nothing in the end. Ezra is told that the just will get a reward in the end, but the world is overcome with sin. Job 9:24. Salakia, Soldier Eliah, if you could get Job 9:24.
I'm pulling it up.
That's a precept to Ezra being told that we get a reward in the end, but right now, this world, I want to say it, but it's in the verse. If you can bring that out, Eliah, Soldier Eliah.
This is the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?
Earth given into the hand of the wicked. And, even the wicked will oppress the wicked. You see these other nations that can be wicked, that are fighting each other. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. But we know why we're getting it. Because we broke the commandments. We chose to serve other gods, idolatry. So once we recognize that, we know, okay, how do we fix it? Two things. Most important, repent and plead the blood of Mashiach that's needed for you to be able to repent. You have to have faith in Yahushua Mashiach, and you have to call upon his blood. And once you repent, go back to keeping these laws. And then once you do that, continue keeping these laws. It doesn't just stop. You endure. It's a daily thing that we do every day. Like I said, take it day by day. Not be worried about the future or none of that, or a week from now. None of that. You wake up, when you get up in the morning, it's a new day. As you go throughout your days, especially like when you're out there in the world, you got to work, you got to do whatever. You might be tempted. You might be mainly all these temptations in the world, but it's a new day. Rebuke them all. Continue to stay righteous in these laws. And if you fall short, repent. But we're told that we have to have a contrite heart. The Most High knows when we're faking it, or when we're just constantly, breaking laws in his face. And he doesn't like that. Now, he the Most High shows grace and mercy, but he also chastises the ones he loves. So, his chastisement, you don't want no part of that unless we recognize, again, it says he chastises the ones he loves, but we've seen how the Most High chastises us, and just like, a kid getting chastised by the belt, in the end, it's going to help him, but in that moment, you don't want no part of that. So if you don't want no part of that, keep the laws. And it might be easier said than done because, some people struggle with certain things. But we have to have faith in the Mashiach. I can't make excuses to not keep his law. If we really have faith, if we have true faith and not just, we say we have faith. We have faith that he's going to take care of us. If we're keeping his law, why wouldn't he? He's going to punish us for keeping his law? So you might, there's stories where you might get jobed, And you might start questioning things like, why is this happening to me? But the Most High does these things for his own, his reasons, and that he understand. He can understand. So we just gotta stay to the path and endure. No, we're gonna get to the first vision. Before we get there, we can get the verse where the Most High tells Ezra to eat flowers only for 7 days. So he's not fasting this time. He's only eating flowers for 7 days, which is, when you first read it, it's like flowers. And he tells him, well, we can get it right here. Read it word for word.
The book of Second Ezra, chapter 9, verse 24. But go into a field of flowers, where no house is builded, and eat only the flowers of the field. Taste no flesh, drink no wine, but eat flowers only.
So the angel tells him, go into a field of flowers where nothing's builded, there's nothing on the land, and just taste no flesh, drink no wine, eat flowers only. Things we may not understand why, but he was told, go eat flowers for 7 days. That's it. No flesh, no wine, no nothing. And you got to do it in the field where nothing's builded. There's no houses or nothing. So after the 7 days, he again addresses the Most High. In thinking about the world, he sees that Israel was given the law. So he's starting to see what happened and how we got to this point. They disobeyed the law, and for that they were destroyed. So I'm not saying he didn't already know that, but he was just, when you're out there just eating flowers for 7 days, he's just thinking and pondering on, the questions that he was asking. And we disobeyed the law. For that we were destroyed. Now, we're going to get to this vision where Ezra is interrupted by a grieving woman. So what I'm going to do here is give a summary on what Ezra's seen. You can try to picture it yourself in your mind. And then at the end, the angel Uriel is going to give us the interpretation of the vision. So I'm going to give you guys a summary of what he sees, and then we're going to get the interpretation. So, Soldier Elijah, if you could get chapter 10 of 2nd Esdras and have verse 40 through 59 ready. It's going to be 19 verses. It's a little lengthy, but it's the full interpretation of this vision. So just have that ready, Soldier Elijah, and
Done.
I will just give a brief summary of what he saw. So we have an idea of what he sees before we get the interpretation.
Salakia, what verse?
It's right here, chapter 10, verse 40 through 59.
Okay, I got it.
Because I can try to interpret the dream for myself, but there's no need to do that when the angel Uriel gives the interpretation. It's right here. So all I'm going to do is give the summary of what he's seen. So he's interrupted. He's in this field by a grieving woman. She's mourning her son. So at first she doesn't want to tell him why. He wants to know why are you mourning, and she doesn't want to tell him why. But she's mourning her son, who was born after 30 years of barrenness. So she couldn't have kids for 30 years. She was barren. But she kept praying. She kept praying. She prayed for his son, and the Lord delivered. So she had faith. But on his wedding night, he dropped dead randomly. So after 30 years, she gets a son. He gets old enough to get married. And on his wedding night, he just drops dead. So she, therefore, wants to die. She tells Ezra, and this is all in chapter 9, 26 all the way to 10 and 59. So she tells him she just wants to die now. And Ezra gets angry at her. When I seen that, I was like, at first I was like being sympathetic, towards her. But then I seen, Ezra gets angry and tells her she should be mourning for Jerusalem for how awful we are and destroyed. Then he contrasts her loss with that of the earths. How many young men has the earth lost, and she should put her own loss in perspective. But he is still, but while he's going off, he's rebuking her pretty much. But while he's still speaking, she is suddenly transformed into a city. Imagine seeing that. A woman, that he was talking to that was mourning her son just turns into a city. What does that even look like? How big is this city that he sees? Is it a tiny little city on the floor that he sees, or just a giant city transformed into a city? Ezra has no idea what this means, so he cries out. So the angel Uriel appears and gives him the interpretation of the dream. So if you have that ready, I'm going to also bring it up and we can bring that out. Chapter 10, verse 40, all the way to 59. All right. So if you can bring that out, Soldier Elia, you're going to read the next verses. I won't interrupt. We'll just read verbatim what the interpretation is of this vision.
Starting at verse 45?
Verse 40 to 59.
Okay, Salakia. This, therefore, is the meaning of the vision which thou lately sawest. Thou sawest a woman mourning, and thou beganst to comfort her. But now seest thou the likeness of the woman no more. But there appeared unto thee a city builded, and whereas she told thee of the death of her son, this is the solution. This woman whom thou sawest is Sion, and whereas she said unto thee, even she whom thou seest as a city builded.
I just want the people watching to know, how in detail, he goes when explaining this, and how important it is, and how to just when you're listening to this, pay attention and really listen to what the soldier's bringing out, because it's very, I would say, simple, because it is being interpreted, and really match it with the vision that Ezra seen. So while he reads this, let's just pay attention and just listen, and then at the end, we could talk about it.
I'm gonna start back off at 44.
Huh.
This woman whom thou sawest is Sion, and whereas she said unto thee, even she whom thou seest as a city builded. Whereas I say she said unto thee that she had been 30 years barren. Those are the 30 years wherein there was no offering made in her. But after 30 years, Solomon builded the city and offered offerings, and then bare the barren a son. And whereas she told thee that she nourished him with labor, that was the dwelling in Jerusalem. But whereas she said unto thee that my son coming into his marriage chamber happened to have a fail and died. This was the destruction that came to Jerusalem. And behold, thou sawest her likeness, and because she mourned for her son, thou beganest to comfort her. And of these things which have chanced, these are to be opened unto thee. For now the Most High seeth that thou art grieved unfeignedly, and sufferest from thy whole heart for her. So hath he shewed thee the brightness of her glory, and the comeliness of her beauty. And therefore I bade thee remain in the field where no house was builded, for I knew that the highest would shew this unto thee. Therefore I commanded thee to go into a field where no foundation of any building was. For in the place wherein the highest beginneth to shew his city, there can no man's building be able to stand. And therefore fear not, let not thine heart be affrighted, but go thy way in, and see the beauty and greatness of the building, as much as thine eyes be able to see. And then shalt thou hear as much as thine ears may comprehend. For thou art blessed above many other, and art called with the highest, and so are but few. But tomorrow at night thou shalt remain here, and so shall the highest shew thee visions of the high things, which the Most High will do unto them that dwell upon the earth in the last days. So I slept that night, and another, like as he commanded me.
Khan, Tawada, Soldier Laya.
Main thing on the vision was that, the woman being barren for 30 years. Right here, I believe it says, whereas I say, she said unto thee that she had been 30 years barren. Those are the 30 years wherein there was no offering made in her. So obviously, all these visions sent by the Most High have meanings, everything in it. Most High doesn't just do things for no reason. Uh, all these visions, they have meaning. The 30 years barren is the time with the 30 years wherein there was no offering made. But after 30 years, Solomon builded the city and offered offerings, and then she bare a son. So, you know, those go tied in together about her being barren for 30 years and then having a son. That was the same thing with Israel. No offerings at all for 30 years. I'm not even 30 years old yet, you know. I'm only 22. So that's longer than my whole life. There's no offerings given. And then Solomon comes along, that's it. And then right after that, but after 30 years, Solomon built the city and offered offerings, and then bare the barren a son. And then after that, she nourished him, is what she told Ezra, that she nourished him with labor. That was the dwelling in Jerusalem. So while we are dwelling in Jerusalem, being taken care of by the Most High. But where she said unto thee that my son coming into his marriage chamber happened to have a fail. It says fail, but also when you read, it will say fall too, and died. This was the destruction that came to Jerusalem. So just suddenly, the destruction that came to Jerusalem, but something led up to that, and that was us, going off. 48. But where she said unto thee that my son coming into his marriage chamber happened to have a fail and died, this was the destruction that came to Jerusalem. And behold, thou sawest her likeness, and because she mourned for her son, thou beganest to comfort her. And of these things which have chanced, these are to be opened unto thee. So we understand that dream, that vision now, that what he was seeing, the morning woman was, for Zion, and how she was barren, and that had to do with us giving no offerings. And then when he suddenly dropped dead in his marriage chamber is when the direct destruction of Jerusalem. Now, before we move on, though, I want to get in 59. I'll read this. And this is after the interpretation of the vision that we just read. And so shall the highest shew thee visions of the high things, which the Most High will do unto them that dwell upon the earth in the last days. So I slept that night and another, like he's commanded me. In the last days, he's going to start showing us visions again. This is brought out a lot, but at the same time, really thinking that how crazy that is. When I say crazy, I just mean like I haven't seen a vision, So one day, let's say the Most High, all praise to the Most High, gave me a vision, or anyone, given a vision on this level that Ezra was shown. You know how the only word I could think of is like crazy. You can't comprehend it. Like what would it be like talking to an angel, being shown the vision, and how scary it'd be, and being shown the end times like Ezra is in a time. He's all the way back then, and he's seeing the end times. So he's seeing things that he hasn't ever seen. No man has ever seen, besides him. The Most High showed him, the Most High has showed visions to other people too, but this is Ezra's vision that he showed him. And, so he takes this in, and he slept that night and another like he was commanded. So he was commanded to sleep again. And then now after this is the other vision that we're going to get into right now, the vision of the eagle and the lion. Now, this reads chapter 12 Second Ezra, verse 10 all the way to 35 is the interpretation of this vision. So before we get that, like I did with the other vision, we're just going to give a brief summary of what Ezra saw. So 2 nights later, Ezra saw another vision. So it's only 2 nights after, it's not a long time. He still has that first one on his mind. Now he's going to get hit with another one. In this one, a monstrous creature rose from the sea, an eagle with 12 wings, 8 rival wings, and 3 heads. It's hard to even picture that. And, anyone
On
that's had dreams before, you can think of a dream being the same as like a vision. He's seeing this and it looks real to him. I don't even know how to picture a monstrous creature rose from the sea, an eagle with 12 wings, 8 rival wings, and 3 heads. Just really think about what he's seeing right now. We're also, I know when we read these, we think about the meanings, but also like really what he's seeing with his 2 eyes that's being shown to him. The wings and heads rule over the earth for a time, then disappear. Eventually, only 1 head and 2 wings remain. Then a lion comes and rebukes the eagle for oppressing the earth. The lion says it's time for the eagle to go. Pretty much, he said, I'm putting these in um, simple words. The lion comes and pretty much he says it's time for you to go. The eagle immediately bursts into flames and disappears. So this is all a description of whatever Ezra is seeing. If you want to read the vision verse for verse, just starts in chapter 11 and reads all the way up to chapter 12:51. The interpretation again is chapter 12, verse 10 to 35. So, Eli, if you could have that ready. So, we're going to read the interpretation of this in a sec. But, so the lion says it's time for the eagle to go. The eagle immediately bursts into flames and disappears. So, after that, Ezra asks for an interpretation of this dream. Ezra is told to write this vision in a book and share it with others. So, now we're going to get to that. When we read this interpretation, the interpretation also gives us a description of what Ezra saw. So I know this was a quick little one, but this is kind of for us to picture, what Ezra's seeing. When we read the interpretation, they're gonna say what Ezra's seeing again in better detail, and match the meaning of what he's seeing with what the Most High is trying to show to him. So let's get chapter 12, verse 10 through 35.
10. And he said unto me, This is the interpretation of the vision. The eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. But it was not expounded unto him. Therefore, now I declare it unto thee. Behold, the days will come that there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth, and it shall be feared above all the kingdoms that were before it. And the same shall 12 kings reign, one after another, whereof the second shall begin to reign, and shall have more time than any of the 12. And this do the 12 wings signify which thou sawest. As for the voice which thou heardest speak, and that thou sawest not to go out from the heads, but from the midst of the body thereof. This is the interpretation, that after the time of that kingdom there shall arise great strivings, and it shall stand in peril of failing. Nevertheless, it shall not then fall, but shall be restored again to his beginning. And whereas thou sawest the 8 small under feathers sticking to her wings, this is the interpretation,
Khan,
that in him
Salakia. So
come.
we're gonna continue, but I just want to point out again the 8 small under feathers. So like even the little under feathers sticking, they all have a meaning, all of it. And me, if I was shown something like that, it'd be hard to understand. And really, the Most High has to give us this understanding. He has to give you that gift of being able to do that, because seeing all these eagles and these things with many heads and all these little feathers and everything, really being able to piece it all together. Angel Uriel had to do it for Ezra. Ezra didn't understand it either, but then there's people in the Bible, men, that do understand visions, and that all comes from the Most High. So, I just wanted to put that out there real quick before we continue, but like I just how the smallest little details all mean something, everything. So,
Uh,
Salakia, you can continue from verse 20, Soldier Eliah Tawada.
okay, go on. Verse 20. That in him there shall arise 8 kings, whose times shall be but small, and their years swift. And 2 of them shall perish, the middle time approaching. 4 shall be kept until their end begin to approach, but 2 shall be kept unto the end. Whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. In his last days shall the Most High raise up 3 kingdoms, and renew many things therein, and they shall have the dominion of the earth, and of those that dwell therein, with much oppression, above all those that were before them. Therefore are they called the heads of the eagle, for these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness, and that shall finish his last end. And whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, it signifieth that one of them shall die upon his bed, and yet with pain. For the 2 that remain shall be slain with the sword. For the sword of the one shall devour the other, but at the last shall he fall through the sword himself. And whereas thou sawest 2 feathers under the wings passing over the head that is on the right side, it signifieth that these are the whom the highest hath kept unto their end. This is the small kingdom and full of trouble, as thou sawest. And the lion whom thou sawest rising up out of the wood, and roaring and speaking to the eagle, and rebuking her for her unrighteousness, with all the words which thou hast heard. This is the anointed which the highest hath kept for them, and for their wickedness unto the end. He shall reprove them, and shall upbraid them with their cruelty. For he shall set them before him alive in judgment, and shall rebuke them and correct them. For the rest of my people shall he deliver with mercy, those that have been pressed upon my borders, and he shall make them joyful until the coming of the day of judgment, whereof I have spoken unto thee from the beginning. This is the dream that thou sawest, and these are the interpretations.
Khan,
Flaki,
Tawada,
keep going.
Tawada. Yeah, so, that was a lot. There was a lot going on. Kingdoms being brought up, nations fighting each other, oppressing, wickedness. Basically, what we see today. The United States being what it is right now. Even they're fighting each other. They have a split with these parties, Republican, Democrat, all these, all this stuff that, we don't really partake in, but we see it, see them fighting against each other. And, we know that, a lot of them are just puppets too. And you have the ones that, you might not even know their name or who they are at the top. People have been saying that forever, but it's true. And it's like so obvious to see that, these nations are wicked. And, not only is it obvious to see, they don't keep the law. So they keep their own laws. Only law that's righteous is the Most High's. So if they're not keeping that, then they're wicked. So, all of these nations that don't fear God, the United States, their history, they teach it in school like it's something to be proud of. It's just crazy to be raised up and seeing that, from this side, and you got to think of like our people when they're in other captivities too, how hard-headed they were, and how they were. We have hindsight, so we can read and see all the things the Most High is doing for them. But really, put yourself in their mind. They were born into captivities just like we are. They were raised as Romans, just like we were raised as Americans. So it doesn't make excuses for them, but us in this American captivity, we found the truth, and we keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. And when we fall short, we repent, and we reprove each other. We get reproved. Iron sharpens iron. We make sure to hold each other up, because it's the world will try to make these commandments hard to keep. The world will try to do that. But also look at our people that our other tribes or the seed, most likely, and how hard-headed they are, how they don't keep the commandments, and how they don't even want to hear about it sometimes. Those are a lot of the people that when we go out there is who we're trying to wake up, because that's the only way we're gonna get the kingdom, is to have the faith of Yahushua and keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. Have the fear of God, because any nation that's not doing that is wicked. So with that being said, that's a lot of what's going on in this vision. All these nations, going at it. But then, and the lion whom thou sawest rising up out of the wood, and roaring and speaking to the eagle, and rebuking her for her righteousness with all the words which thou hast heard, this is the anointing which the highest hath kept for them and for their wickedness unto the end. He shall reprove them, and shall upbraid them with their cruelty, for he shall set them before him alive in judgment, and he shall rebuke them and correct them. For the rest of my people shall he deliver with mercy. So when we read that, let me get something real quick. Acts 10:38, how God anointed Yahushua of Nazareth with the Holy Ghost and with power, who went about doing good and healing all that were oppressed of the devil, for God was with them. Who's going to deliver us in the end? Mashiach Yahushua, that's how it has set up. And his son is going to come, and he's going to deliver us. And another thing that I want to touch on before we move on with this vision is that, you'll have people say things like, oh, how am I in a captivity? I can get up and do what I want. I can go drive to the store. I can go get some food. I'm not in a captivity. But when you think of it as long as you're living in a land that doesn't keep the laws of God, and that, you can be fired from your job for keeping the laws of God, you can, go through all these things for keeping the laws, you're in captivity. As long as we're in a land that doesn't keep the laws of God, doesn't put the Most High first, you're in captivity, because they're not going to care about your laws. They're not going to care about Israel. They're not going to care about none of that. Yahweh, they might say, in God we trust, but God, again, is just a word. Who is their God? So, and Yahweh we trust, and Yahushua we trust, his son, who he sent to deliver us and will send again. And so with that vision, that's what I see in that. And right here, 37. Meant to know his secret life. Okay, 37. Now, Elia, if you're able to read 37 to 39, 38, Salakia.
Start.
Good.
Starting at verse 37. Therefore, write all these things that thou hast seen in a book, and hide them, and teach them to the wise of the people, whose hearts thou knowest may comprehend, and keep these secrets.
Yes, so write all these things in a book. And where are we reading this from? In a book. So that's why the Most High puts these visions on men and lights a lamp on them to do these things, because if he didn't, we would know nothing about this, all these years later. That's why, writing down in books is what he had them doing. There was no other, way. So the history was kept, but it was touched on, especially this Apocrypha, the Bible especially. And this is in the Apocrypha. These visions that are similar to the things you see in Revelations, saying the same thing. But with that said, though, I want to go on to the third vision. So, but before we get to that, in the meantime, the people are noticing that Ezra has been gone a long time. Now, Ezra was a leader too. He was a prophet. He was a priest from the um, from the line of Levi. He was a great grandson of Aaron. So he was a leader. The people he knew his he knew his genealogy. The people knew his genealogy. So people are noticing that Ezra has been gone a long time. They think he has abandoned them. He tells, and I remember reading this, and you can find all this in chapter 11 all the way to 12 in verse 51. He tells them that he had come to pray for Zion and had to beg for mercy. So the people returned to the homes to wait for him. But they had thought that he abandoned them. They're like, you've been gone all these days. Remember, he's fasting 7 days. He's eating flowers for 7 days. So this is time, weeks passing by. They haven't seen him. There's no cell phones. There's no internet. None of that. They're not calling them, telling them, oh, I'm going to be down there in a minute. No, he hasn't seen them in weeks at this point. So they think he abandoned them. They think he's mad at them and stuff. But he tells them, I'm praying for Zion. And he's begging for mercy to the Most High, and he's being shown all these things. So the people return to the homes and they return to wait for him. Now, chapter 13, verse 1 through 58 is where you'll find the vision of a man from the sea. It's another wild vision. So, Soldier Eliah, if you could get chapter 13, verse 25, we're going to read all the way to 53, but that's the interpretation, and we're going to get that at the end. Real quick, I'm just going to, again, give a summary of what he's seen. Basically, just describe what he's seen for the people watching this, and then we'll give the interpretation of everything he's seeing at the end. So, there's a vision of a man rising out of the sea. He goes to the top of a mountain, and then hordes of men gather to wage war against him. Instead of fighting the men, the Messiah simply opened his mouth. The Messiah. We know who that is, Hamashiach Yahushua. We're going to get that in the interpretation, though. Out came fire, flame, and a storm of sparks. But just let's recognize the Messiah again being shown in the time of Esdras. They haven't even seen him yet. He hasn't even been on the earth yet. And, so he's seeing, remember, when he was putting the crowns on, Ezra asked, who was that? And then they said, the Son of God. So, and again, Yahushua being shown as the one to deliver us through his Father, So the Messiah simply opened his mouth. Out came fire, flame, and a storm of sparks. Without a sound, the fire burned up the hordes, and the Messiah then gathered up other men, some with joy on their faces, and then others full of sorrow. So this is a summary of what he's seen. Now, Ezra asked what this vision meant. So, we have a good amount of reading to do, but this is the last one that we're going to read about for that long. But I'm not going to interrupt, and we'll talk about it at the end. I have it right here, chapter 13, starting at 25 to 53. You can go ahead and start reading that, Eliah Tawada.
This is the meaning of the vision. Whereas thou sawest a man coming up from the midst of the sea. The same is whom God the highest hath kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature. And he shall order them that are left behind. And whereas thou sawest that out of his mouth there came as a blast of wind, and fire, and storm, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him. 26. The same is he whom God the highest hath kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. And whereas thou sawest that out of his mouth there came as a blast of wind, and fire, and storm, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him. This is the interpretation. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth, and he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one place against another, and one realm against another. And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I shewed thee before. And then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have won against another. And an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Sion, and Sion shall come and shall be shewed to all men, being prepared and builded like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. And this, my son, shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, and shall lay before them their evil thoughts and the torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame, and he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto me. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Osha the king, whom Salmanazar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then shewed signs for them, and held still the flood, till they were passed over. For for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and that the same region is called Asherah. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders. Now, when he destroyeth the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain. And then shall he shew them great wonders. Then said I, O Lord, that bearest rule, shew me this. Wherefore have I seen the man coming up from the midst of the sea? And he said unto me, like as thou canst neither seek out nor know the things that are in the deep of the sea, even so can no man upon earth see my son, or those that be with him, but in the day of time. This is the interpretation of the dream which thou sawest, and whereby thou only art here lightened.
Khan. Soldier Lie, you did a lot of reading on this class. Thank you. Um,
Ah,
you know, that the whole man on the fire, man on the sea, with the fire and everything. This whole vision that we're reading is about Mashiach Yahushua when he comes back and how these nations are going to try to fight him, going to try to go against him, they're going to be scared. It talks about the day of judgment, how it's going to be the the worst day on earth ever. You know, he's going to come, and a lot of people are going to die, and a lot of people are going to be scared. And if you're not, I don't know, because the Most High Son coming back is going to be a day of vengeance. You just pray that you be tucked under the wing if you're alive at the time, and that you wait out and you stay strong, and you stay strong for this truth, because you're seeing it before you now. It's no longer it's no longer those that have faith but don't see. Now you're seeing it, with your eyes, him coming down. And you know what's about to happen. These people that read this Bible, that's why it's important to read the Bible so that you can be tucked in his wing when that time comes. So with all that, we see in the second Esdras how important Hamashiach Yahushua is. This is what the third time he's mentioned in these visions. The first one was, I believe, the first vision that we talked about, and then the second one with the last vision we just talked about, his anointed. Now we got him talking about him coming back, and he's going to show them great wonders. He's going to do so much on the earth, and he's going to rule over him, and then Yashala, co-heirs. Now, after that, verse 54, for thou hast forsaken thine own way and applied thy diligence unto my law and sought it. Thy life has thou, or he's talking about Ezra, thy life hast thou ordered in wisdom and hast called understanding thy mother. He's saying this because this is the interpretation of the dream which thou sawest, and whereby thou only art here lightened. He's the only one being shown this, and he's saying that because Ezra forsake his own way and applied thy diligence unto my law and sought it. So, Ezra forsake his own ways and went after the ways of the Most High. Now, with that vision, we're getting to the end part of the video, chapter 14. If we can get chapter 14, verse 10 through 13, Soldier Elijah.
I'm gonna pull it up right now. For the road hath lost his youth, and the times begin to wax old. For the road is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of a 10th part, that there remaineth that which is after the half of the 10th part. Now therefore, set thine house in order, and reprove thy people, comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption.
God, I just wanted to get that because that's where you find that verse. I know over here we bring that out a lot, talking about how there's those parts in the 10th and a half already finished. The end times really are coming if they're not starting now already. I know that people might have been saying this for such a long time now, but really think about time. Like, this earth has been around for a minute now. So 20 years compared to that is nothing. 30 years, 50, 60 years, 100 years. It's really not that long compared to the time that the earth has been around, compared to the Most High. So, we don't know how long these parts are, but in Ezra's time, it was already getting close. So, when we think about our time, where it's at now. But with that, I want to get the rest of chapter 14 This you can find this in verse 1 through 48. Basically, Ezra is to tell the people he will be gone for 40 days. So these are after all the visions. He has to go for 40 days and bring several good scribes with him because they're about to get to writing. They got a lot to write now. God will light a lamp of understanding in his mind. The most high does these things. Ezra follows these instructions to the letter. Then he took with him 5 scribes and began to dictate what he was told. The scribes wrote non-stop for 40 days. Chapter 14, 2nd Ezra, verse 42 through 44. In 40 days, Salakia, verse 30 and verse 42. The highest gave understanding unto the 5 men, and they wrote the wonderful visions of the night that were told, which they knew not. They didn't even see the visions, but they were told. And they sat 40 days, and they wrote in the day, and at night they ate bread. So they're writing all day. Verse 43. And they shall go Salakia, I have the wrong one right here. Verse 43. As for me, I spake in the day, and I held not my tongue by night. So Ezra was just talking. He's telling them what to write. In 40 days, they wrote 204 books. I've never wrote one. So in 22 years. So, I couldn't tell you how long writing 204 books should usually take, but I would think doing it in 40 days is definitely the most high put a lamp of understanding in their minds. That's what was said.
Um,
So some books were to be held back to be given only to the wise, and we see that a lot in the second Ezra's, where the Most High is commanding him only give it to the wise, and so Ezra did. Now, the last 2 chapters, 15 and verse 1, all the way to the last chapter 16 to verse 78, is all about the oracles against God's enemies. These last 2 chapters, the Most High is just going in on his enemies now. He went in on Israel, now he's going in on the wicked. God will wreak vengeance on the wicked. The prophet is instructed to announce God's words. The prophet Ezra, the words should be written down. They should not fear any plots against themselves. If you can get chapter 15, verse 1 through 4. Pawada.
Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness.
That's just starting off with verse 15. Chapter 15, and going into what we just said, how he's going to talk about the wicked. Most High is about to let loose his vengeance. The wicked have been persecuting the innocent. The blood of the innocents have cried to the Lord for vengeance. This is all in chapter 15. Most High will deliver his people from Egypt. Again, Egypt will be struck down with plagues. Its land will be destroyed. Seed will not grow. Trees will be devastated by hail. So it's just giving all these descriptions of chaos in this chapter. In the aftermath of destruction will be chaos. Nation will fight against nation. No one will show pity on another. Then we get to his judgment for kings and rulers. Kings will reap what they have sown. Those who have tormented the innocent will be tormented. Those who have sinned will reap death and destruction. See these verses I have right here that I just highlighted? Anyone watching these videos, this is where you can find everything that I'm describing. If we were to go and read every single verse, we'd just be basically doing an audiobook of Second Ezra. What I'm giving here is the scriptures and just the breakdown of everything that's going on in this chapter. Those who have sinned will reap death and destruction. And then 28 to 33, he's just being shown more apocalyptic things. This the destruction of the end times. Then we get to chapter 16. And he's being told how judgments are irreversible. No one will quench the fire of the Most High. Most High's judgments are already in progress. There's things that he's judged as we're living under the curses. They're still already in progress. And nothing can stop it. There's nothing you can do. You can't run. You can't hide. You know, that one scripture where you're being chased by a bear and a lion, and then you go in the house, you put your hand on the wall, you get bit by a snake. That's the Most High. You can't get away. So the passages, and also in chapter 16, verse 1 through 16, it's addressed to Babylon, Asia, Egypt, and Syria. And then the horrors of the last days are chapter 16, verse 17 to 34 are being described. Despite the catastrophes, people will continue to their evil ways. They just got to be destroyed at this point. So wicked, it's like even all that the Most High is putting on them, they still continue their evil ways. The destruction will be complete, and a lot of people will die. A lot of people.
Done.
I don't have a number on it, but it's just you would think majority. Like it's an apocalypse. It's the end of the world. You know, these movies we watch. You know, that's really gonna happen, and there will be the birth of the new world, which is gonna be under Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, under his father Yahweh, the son Yahweh Shai, and then Israel. And then you will have other nations, but they have a role they have to play. It's no longer they can run and do whatever they want. They have to come under, and a lot of them will be destroyed, So with that being said, advice to the faithful, the end is compared to childbirth. In chapter 16, verse 35 through 52, you can see where it's comparing the end of childbirth, that the birth pains are inevitable. It's inevitable there will be pain, but they only last for a short time. So we have to endure. There will be an increase in evil. And we see day by day, it just gets worse and worse and worse. The world just gets more evil. And then chapter 16, verse 53 to 67, the Most High knows men's sins, can't hide from him. Those who have sinned, everyone should not deny their sins. Most High already sees them as well as their innermost thoughts. That applies to everyone. That applies to me. That applies to the soldier Elia. That applies to the congregation, to people in the truth, out the truth. The Most High sees everything. So we have to look into our hearts, examine ourselves and pray to the Most High for new ones. Just like David did, he prayed for a new heart, because your heart, at the end of the day, that's your mind, the things that you're thinking, things that you want, all these things that you do, these wicked things that you do, start off with a wicked thought. So the Most High already sees them as well as their innermost thoughts. They cannot hide. God will call everyone to account, even us. It is better to abandon their wicked ways. Then God will set you free from all distress. Sounds easy when you just read it, but we know that sin is in the earth and there will be temptations. But the Most High will not send you a temptation higher than you can. Let's get that scripture real quick. Let me pull that up. So I can give me 1 sec. Will not send you temptation or with the book of 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common in man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. So there is a way to escape. And the Most High doesn't tempt you more than you're able. So just think of that. Every time you get tempted, the Most High said himself that you are able to beat this, because he doesn't tempt you more than you're able. So how do we be able? By keeping the laws, praying, fasting, going to the Most High, not being silent. That's something that I gotta work on myself too. Gotta make sure I'm praying every day. Gotta make sure I fast. You can throw your fringes on in the morning, but you should pray too before you leave the house. When you get up in the morning, sometimes you might have an early job to where you get up and, you give yourself like 10 minutes to get ready, but you should find time to pray Even if you do it in the car, you know, find time to pray when you get up in the morning. Find time to pray throughout the day before you go to bed. You know, I have to make the time. Now, with the last 10 verses, chapter 16, 68 to 78, it's just assurance for those who are persecuted. Those who fear the Lord will be targets for persecution. Horrible events are described. Again, it's the end times. It's just horrible. Nonetheless, they should remain faithful. We have to remain faithful. The Most High will rescue us. We should not fear or doubt. Those who are wicked will be shut off and doomed to destruction by fire. I make sure to put that last because that is the last thing that's going to happen. So we have to endure. They'll be shut off and doomed to destruction by fire. And then the new kingdom, the new earth will come. So, stop sharing. I want to say Tawadah to Soldier Liar for coming on and reading. And with that, that does conclude the class. You know, leave a comment if you have any questions or you just, you know, want to add something. And I say Tawadah, Shalom to the nation. How about Shem Yasha?
Yeah, but Hashem, you have a shy barakatam.
Khan. Tawadah, Liar.
Try to pop in and shit, you know what I'm saying? Big needles, you know what I'm saying? High needles, small needles, get out of my east. Real blue, smooth, you know what I'm saying? Move smoothly, don't be bougie, see smooth, slump, soupy. You know who rule me? Yeah, how it's truly, I'm newly, no one fool me, botch it boy, my Tanati boy, word became flesh, so it no comeback boy, no comeback boy, she can destroy. Destro with the best flow, Boba Fett with the golden deck, better hold respect on the coldest set, filthy rag boy, get that bag boy, Yasha Allah Watchman, kings in the building, success is journey, keep learning, pure gold, keep burning, till we pure, keep commandments endure, make your election sure, it's yours, it's yours.